Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Leaders in Tech. I'm your host, Emily Parker. Today, I'm so excited to introduce a guest who is not just a leader in tech, but also a former colleague of mine. Join me in welcoming Rebecca Griffiths, the founder and CEO of Primis. Rebecca and I worked together 6 years ago, which feels like, it's amazing to see how she has grown and the things that she's done since then. I've been watching in the wings. Rebecca's got a really impressive background leading her to now the forefront of retail technology and especially in leadership, fundraising. So really paving the way for women in tech. Today, we're going to be focusing on how Rebecca has navigated challenges around fundraising as a woman in tech and as an owner of a business, her approach as well as a female entrepreneur, and some advice and strategies for public speaking, because Rebecca does a lot of that. This episode's going to be especially valuable, I would say, for women who are aiming to carve their own path in tech and build a brand. So, Rebecca, it's fabulous to have you here. I'm sure that our audience are going to get a lot from our conversation today. So, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. A lovely introduction. Need to take a little bit of that for a bio on LinkedIn. But yeah, the 6 years since we've last worked together, and now we're in very different paths. And I run my own software retail tech company. Second time fundraising started in COVID in 2020. And I just basically chucked everything into this and basically said it's either going to work or it's going to fail. And 50-50, we'll just give it a chance and let's see what happens. So yeah, really, really good to be here today and just talk about my life story over the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose on that note, it would be really interesting to understand what inspired you to go for it with starting your own company, because that's a big step to take, especially during COVID. Not that I'm sure you predicted that was going to happen.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So obviously, I am the CEO and founder of Primis, and I founded the company really on the premise of I'd worked for many sort of tech retail businesses prior to Nava and many others. And I always saw big gaps in this space around connecting the technology into the retail eco structure of it all. And I always found these big tech companies that have got hundreds and hundreds of people and multi-million fundraising always seem to fail when it comes to the technology from an integration perspective.
Right.
And that was something that I really struggled with in previous roles and jobs where we would sell the dream, I called it. You go in and you say, this is how we can do it. Then they would be wowed by it. They would love it.
Mm.
And as soon as you start to open up the car bonnet and start integrating all the plugs and the wires, that's when I found the previous systems I worked for just didn't work.
Yeah.
And then, of course, things like our reputation, my reputation, because it's a very small industry, retail, in technology. And obviously, we touch very closely into logistics. You've got to be careful of not just this selling a dream and this selling a vision, I think is one, but selling something that's fundamentally not working is an absolute no-go for me. And many other reasons kind of in the background that made me want to start Primis. But really, for me, it was trying to build a piece of technology that I was truly passionate about. This space I love. I'll always be in this space forever. I love the retail space. I actually do love the logistics space of it as well, as much as it's not that sexy. To me, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was how could I bring in two elements of logistics and retail and e-commerce all together through one single platform. And not many people know this, but Primis actually means first in Latin. So it's always putting the consumer first and always putting our product out into the market and thinking, is this what a consumer wants? Is this what the consumer is struggling with at the moment? We're buying online, but also is this something that a retailer is struggling with? And how can we, Primis, make our offering and our technology very, very seamless? And it's always at the back of my mind, even when I was fundraising. Of course, people used to say to me, yeah, but you're a very small fish in a very, very big ocean
Yeah.
with very, very big competitors. How are you going to stand out? How are you going to be different? And For me, I'd always go back to it's the technology. The technology has to be very plug and play,
Right.
very easy to onboard, because I know what retailers are like. If it's too much, they lose attention, they walk away, and you never get them back. You get one chance to sell to any retailer. And that really has been something we've continued throughout the process into our second fundraise we did last year. Again, that came up a lot of times. How are you different? What are you going to build that's different? How are you going to stand out to your market and crowd? And that's, something I'm very, very strong about in continuing that journey over the coming years ahead.
There's no stopping now, and it looks like the business is doing really well. So obviously you mentioned that round of the fundraising. One thing that I do think is going to be very helpful and relevant for anybody listening is just some insights into fundraising. It's not an area of business I have any experience in, and I don't know whether you did before this. Maybe you've had to jump in the deep end in that perspective. Could you share a bit about, I suppose, what fundraising lessons might be valuable for other people, or what it looks like?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think if I peel it right back to the beginning, again, me personally, I've never fundraised before. I've been in a business that has fundraised several times. So I've known about how the fundraising journey works, but I didn't really know the terminology around it. I didn't really know what a cap table was and investor shareholders agreements. Like I'd heard of them,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what they were in detail. So for me, it was really the absolute unknown of fundraising. And only by listening to podcasts or reading or listening to things, you learn as you go along, or as you do, you learn on the job, like I'm also doing now in the role that I'm in. When I first initially fundraised in 2021, I would say when I look back, it was difficult to fundraise for sure, because again, we were still coming out of the unknown of
Yeah.
COVID. But I think as well, there was a big struggle where a lot of companies were very hesitant to give cash because of what was happening in the world. They wasn't quite sure if we're going to be in this mess forever or just
Mm,
another year. I still think personally we're still in a bit of a predicament with what's gone on 4 years ago.
yeah.
So fundraising for me has always been very challenging, both mentally, physically. It's just never been an easy thing for me personally. And I don't know if that's because of the market we're in. Customer experience and post purchase is not everybody's forte. I would say there's really only 7, maybe 8 competitors in this space. So it's still quite a niche offering that we work on. But also, we were the last ones to the market as
Right.
well. We were the brand new, the fresh off the block. We'd built something very small to an MVP. I took some personal cash into the business and said, that's all I've got. We need to build something. If we can't build it with the cash I've put in, it's not going to get off the ground. So I was fundraising in 2021 with a little bit of revenue, a little bit of traction of retailers.
Yeah.
But again, most of it was a wish. It was an idea. It was this is the idea. I want the business. I need to fundraise because I don't have the money just to keep pumping into the company. So I have to go down the VC train. And part of me never wanted to because I've seen horror stories. But the other part of me was for the company to be successful, I have to fundraise.
Mm,
So, I think initially when I first started, it was like the unknown. It was like speed dating, but speed dating like numerous people where you knew probably one person out of that 50 calls may take it to the next stage.
yeah.
The other 40 we're just probably just having a half an hour call, just listening, understanding, and then immediately be like, it's not really for us. It's not really our space. We don't really know this market very well. We like you. You're very investable. We like the product, but it's just not for us.
Mhm.
And you'd have to do every single day for pretty much nearly 6 months,
Wow.
where you're also trying to fundraise as well as trying to sell and build. And bearing in mind, it was only me at the time, so it was, yeah, sometimes it can be quite soul destroying as well because you're giving up a piece of your business to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to trust them with your business. I'm sure later
Yeah.
down the line you get into the part where you can really vet them, but also at the same time you're looking at a conversion rate of maybe 1 in 50 calls. So how picky can you be?
100%. 100%. I'd go in there kind of going, I will lead with your direction. Like you tell me, and then it's only by then me learning just the different conversations I was having going, okay, so that investor needs to see this. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Oh, okay, he wants to see the same thing. And then it was a pattern. And then you just build on that pattern. And we were very successful. We fundraised and brought on 2 VCs in our very early stages in 2021, a pre-seed. So it was just literally a very small check of just shy of 500,000. Sounds small. To me, it was massive then, but it was a small check just for me to go and start to recruit a couple of key people in the business. So that came from a tech and also from like a business operations perspective. And I'm very lucky that those two are still in the business
Yeah.
now, gone through all of that with me. And then soon as I fundraise, it's like a big relief. It's like, oh, right, okay, I can get back into the business now and do the things I love because I don't like this. I know we have to do it, but I don't like it. And it's very challenging, I think, as well, being a woman in tech and a woman in the logistics space. I am very much, half the time I go to these VCs and things like that. I'm like the only woman in the room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, this needs to change.
Mhm.
You know, I do see a lot of these things where VCs go, we need to deploy over 50 businesses this year, but 20% of them have to be female led. And I'm like, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
But it is because there's not many of us women are wanting to get out there and, power the next generation of younger women coming
Mm,
through.
mm.
What now is for the next is for the young teenagers and the 20-year-olds coming through the ranks who then want to be an aspiring entrepreneur, founder, CEO, or tech, or even a CTO. Doesn't have to be a CEO, but they want to be an aspiring C-suite. But they look at it and think, well, how can I get to that?
Yeah, I'm not seeing
You know?
myself up there represented. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think it's
yeah.
even, I'm in MarTech, which is the gender ratio is significantly better than when you err on the side of, logistics, because I've been in both, but it's still only at a certain level and it's still not necessarily there in the companies that you're speaking to from a partnership perspective. You might have lots of females around you in your network, in your sphere, but then you go to BCs and suddenly it's a whole different experience. Would you say that there was anything in the process that made you feel more acutely aware that you were the only female in the situation?
Oh, yeah, quite a few times, if I'm being totally honest with you. And I think more so in my second fundraise. And I think then that's when we were raising £2 million. So we were significantly going up
Yeah.
in our raise and valuation. Now we have live customers, we have case studies. We had a lot more on our plate to show
Yeah.
people now. And I think I grew in confidence as well. I grew in not cocky. I always say I'm not cocky, but I am very confident when it comes to product, the business, the vision, and where it needs to go. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect, but I've been in it from literally an idea out of a notepad to now seeing a team of 10 of us in
Yeah.
the business. When people then try and push back on that and go, but why are you not doing this? It's like, have you been in this market? Do you know this market? Do you talk to these people? Then no, I'm talking to them, and that's why we're building it this way. But also I've had a few questions again in my previous fundraise, more so last year, where, people will go, do you have a male co-founder?
Oh,
Do you have a male co-founder? Not, do you have a co-founder? Do you have a male co-founder? And I said, no, I don't. Oh, right. Have you thought about getting a male co-founder? No, I haven't. Why would that make a difference? I don't need a I have a team. I have a chief product officer. I have a COO. Need a co-founder because, to be honest with you, why do I need one? Is it just a title? Is it just a tick box? Half the time, I'm not one for titles anyway. When people go, "Oh, the founder, CEO," I'm kind of just like, "Oh, I'm just the founder. I just came up with the idea, and here we are running with it." You know what I mean? Because I just don't ever look at myself and think, "Oh, look at me. I'm the CEO. and everyone has to look at me." I
Right.
don't ever look at it like that. I just see it as got a great idea. I'm passionate about it, and I want it to be truly successful. And if I bring in the amazing people around me, it will get to where it needs to be. And that's not always going to be down to me doing it. But whether you're a man or a woman doesn't make any difference.
No.
So basically what you're saying is I've got to go and recruit a male, let's say a male C-suite. Bearing in mind I've already got two, but I need to go and find another one to balance out. To balance what out?
Mm.
Bearing in mind I've got my colleague Claire, but we are the only two females. I haven't done that purposely. It's just because of who the people are. I like them. They come on board, and typically they are a man.
And that's how
But
it should be,
but
isn't it? You need to hire the person who's right for the job, no matter what
100%.
gender they are, and you don't need a co-founder. So you're not going to hire a co-founder of either gender.
Yeah, why would I hire a co-founder when I've got two very competent people in the company from product and operation who technically act as like co-founders
Yeah.
anyway? They just don't have a title on the signature. So basically, I'll just go to my chief operating officer and go, "Hey, can you be my co-founder and chief operating officer?" He's going to go, "Yeah, okay. Why?
What's going to be
What?
different?
Just
Nothing.
need to do that?" Like, "Oh no, nothing. I just need to please him over there." "Oh, but is he investing in the company?" "Oh, no, no, no." "Then why should we do that then?" It baffles me, and it's for me, it's the little comments that I've had over time, again, more so last year of, "How do you balance your time? Like, talk to me personally, like, who is Rebecca? And, do you have a family?" And this, that, the other, and I'm very protective of I don't always talk about my son because I think then people create a stigma and go, "Oh, she's a mom as well. So, you know, possibly travel too much and be away from home." I'm the opposite of that. Like, I don't want to talk about my son. I will openly, if I'm comfortable in the environment, and talk about him, but I don't lead a conversation with, "Hi, I'm a mom. I've got a 7-year-old."
Yeah.
I just don't need to bring it to a work environment. Do you know what I mean? Do think there's still a stigma of, "Oh, so she has to leave early to do the school pickup." And, "Oh, okay, but will you be working later?" Versus the man who leaves, it's like, "Go him. He's a great father
Mm.
and running a successful able to do all the other things." And I'm not sitting here bashing that, of course I'm not, but there is a stigma, and I think it's still really sad that it's still around now for 2024.
Yeah, that is.
Really sad.
Yeah, 100%. Because I hear, I've been hearing stories like that, even from my mum when she was early in her career, when I was just born, however long ago. And it still seems that, the same anecdotes are being told. When you obviously sometimes make a decision, not necessarily to mention your son. I've got a daughter. She's 1.5 years old nearly, and I remember when I felt pregnant, one of my earliest thoughts about work, not about the baby in general, was
Yeah.
I am going to try and keep this off LinkedIn. I don't want LinkedIn to ever know. I don't want my professional work to have any idea that I possibly spent however long out. At the time I thought a year, but I only really did 9 months, and then I went back to work. But it was almost a conscious decision for me to say, if our professional network know, they'll think I've been swanning around for a year. They'll think I'm out of touch. They'll think I'm not focused. And actually, I haven't done that. I've posted her on LinkedIn. I've spoken about her because then I saw her and I was like, right, now I'm doing what I'm doing to make sure that the world's a better place
Yeah.
for you, right? But it is interesting because now I see it more from the perspective of when I'm not with her, everything that I'm doing is so much more important because I have to be successful because I've got this ultimate responsibility now. I'm not kind of itching to get away from my desk so I can spend time with her. She's having a great time at nursery. She loves it. She's playing in sandpit,
Yeah.
doing whatever. And actually, then I can really focus on making sure that I'm successful so that there's no risk in our life and that she gets what she needs. How did you decide, I suppose, in those moments, whether you were going to mention him or not?
When I was doing my second round of fundraising, who we're working with now, so we got investment from Fuel Ventures. They're a phenomenal team, very normal, very down to earth. They understand life. Do you know what I mean? And my board of director, he has a son, And it's only when I obviously wanted to get to know him a little bit more, and I was like, "So tell me all about you, what, married, kids?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have a little boy, he's 2, this, that, and the other." And he's like, "You?" And I said, I do have a son." Like, he was, "Oh, right, how old is he?" And I said, "Oh, he's 7, his name's William." And he was like, "And what does he think to mummy doing this?" And I said, "Oh, all he ever sees of mummy is ferociously on a laptop, tapping away, trying to get stuff done." And he was just like, "No," he says, "I think it's great for our children to see what mummies and daddies do. Where they don't fully know it, but they see, my mummy does this." And he says to me regular, "Mummy, do you enjoy your job? Mummy, do you do this? Mummy, do you do that?" And he's interested as much as he doesn't know what I do. I do talk about it, and I do talk about it not openly to everyone, but if there is a comment around a family, or, "Oh, I need to get back, I've got my little girl to pick up from so and so," or, "I'm not going to be around that day because I'm seeing my daughter at the Christmas
Yeah.
nativity," I will go, "Oh, how old's your little girl?" "Oh, she's 6. Oh, mine's 7. Oh, lovely." This. And I think that's when you then form that bond with that other individual, which is good, obviously, in this working environment. But I think for me personally, I still kind of keep them quite protected and just don't say too much. I try and keep my work and my personal quite separate. And I remember a story when I worked at a previous company prior to setting up Primis, where I'd come back after maternity leave. I think I had like 4 months off maternity, and I had a car seat in the back of my car. I met a colleague in a car park to a meeting, and he saw a car seat in the back, and he was just like, "Oh, do you have something to tell me?" Like, jokingly. I was like, "No, why? What have I got to tell you?" And he's like, "Do you have a child?" "Oh, yeah, yeah, I do. I have a child." "Oh, how old is he?" "Oh, well, he's been 5 months now." 5 months? And he's like, "You've never said anything about it." And I'm like, I don't think I needed to at work, because I would then be put in a bucket, an identity of me.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a mom, that's not for anybody else's business. That's for me to do behind my scenes. But I show up on time. I leave at the same time as everybody else, because between me and my husband, we work it together around the nursery pickup, drop
Yeah.
offs, who's working from home, who's out the door, and we've always done that. So I've never had to go, "I'm really sorry, but I really need to leave at 3 o'clock," because we've managed it
Yeah.
between us.
Yeah.
And that's what you do in partnerships. And that's what we've chosen to have a child. We've both chosen to
Yeah.
raise him. So both have to work at it together to take him to school. And who's doing the pickup? And there's times that I've had to miss things, especially in this role now
Yeah.
with traveling. And I've had to miss little milestones, but I've always been there for the big milestones for me, like birthday or Christmas nativities, and seeing him on the stage dressed as a sheep or
Yeah.
whatever. you know, it means the world to me. But there's times when I've not been able to go to parents' evening, and my husband's had to do parents' evening because I'm traveling or I'm at a conference. And my husband's like, "There's no need for both of us to go. I'm going to
Yeah.
go. I'll just refer back to you." And it's true, but it's the guilt that you
Yeah.
have going, "Oh, but I should be there as the mom." Or it's the comments you get when you're not seen in school too much. It's like, "Oh, I've not seen you for a while." And it's like, I am here.
Yeah.
Just because you haven't physically seen me in a playground, dropping him off, I am doing what I need to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
It's a stick
At at the
perception.
end of the day, he's not going to remember you being there on specific days. All he's going to remember is that you were consistently there for him in his life, which is clearly true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so interesting about almost people feeling, I suppose, entitled to know about your personal life.
Yeah. 100%. It was just the way he was like, "Have you got something to tell me?" Like, "We're going into a meeting now. We don't need to talk about my son and my personal life. I'm here to talk about this retailer with you in that room.
Yeah.
Get the job done."
How did that make you feel afterwards? Like you had maybe, was it kind of a conscious decision not to mention him when that came up in the car seat was seen? Were you like, oh, I'm going to be seen differently across the organization now? Did you have any worries about that?
No, I didn't have any worries. I'm still very quiet about it. So again, when I look back working there may have been 1 or 2 times that I had to leave because nursery rang, and I only worked literally half an hour down the road at the time. And the company I worked at was obviously very flexible. We actually worked from home, like before working from home became the new normality. I would probably say 1 or 2 times I've had to go to my line manager who had 2 girls.
Yeah.
I need to leave at 3 o'clock today because my husband's away and I need to be at home for nursery pickup. And most of the time it was, yeah, sure, no problems. Yeah, all good.
Mm.
Off you go. Or it was, I need to leave now because I had the call from nursery. And he got it, even though he had older girls,
Yeah.
he still got it. Like, yep, we'll get it. Go, 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 go. I was like, I'll be back online in a bit. Once I've just picked him up, I've got him home settled. I will be back on laptop in the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I always was because I'm a very work conscious person anyway. I'm not one to take the piss. I am one to show up, do a good job, because it's my reputation.
Yeah.
End of the day, if I had a reputation, I'm gonna go far, am I? 'Cause I'm like, oh, don't work with her. She doesn't do very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's not going to give you the opportunity to start your own business a few years down the line, is it? So,
Exactly.
agreed. So, speaking of reputation, one thing that I was really keen to hear about from you was your public brand. I've been seeing that you've been doing loads of very high profile speaking engagements recently. You've been jetting off. You've just been in Dubai. You delivered a talk at Shop Talk in Vegas. How do you prepare for such high profile speaking engagements?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Initially, I was very nervous. I remember doing my first ever talk around Primis at the Excel at the White Label Conference in 2021. And I was so nervous, like my legs were like jelly
Yeah.
as I was going on the stage. And it got very surreal because they were like flipping my mic into my top and they were clipping it. Yeah, all these things. I was like, oh my God, like what is going on? This is so surreal. Because I've been the one sitting in the audience watching, thinking, oh gosh, she's amazing. How does she do this?
Mm,
And I think for me, I am one to just chuck myself into the deep end. All right. And I am a believer of nobody knows your business better than you.
true.
And nobody knows your script, nobody knows your pattern, your story, your anything. They just think you're just going to go on stage. They do not know if you've gone down the wrong path 2 minutes into that talk. As long as you get back onto the path that you want to finish off,
Yeah.
that's fine. And I've listened to a lot of, again, podcasts around how do you introduce yourself in the first 90 seconds. You need to capture them. You need to lift them up out of their phones because half the time in these conferences, you just sat at your phone because again, you're on your emails trying to catch up on things while trying to listen.
Mm,
So for me, over the time, I've done things like, yes, Shop Talk, NRF, Seamless in Dubai, Retail Live with the guys over at Shopify. I remember having been on the stage with the guys at Shopify and I was like, oh my God, like, wow, me. But I was just a bit like, just chuck yourself into it because I think you've got a presence to be on a stage of an audience who doesn't know you, doesn't know your brand. And I always find me going down the speaking route is much more effective
yeah.
from a brand and a lead perspective
Mm,
because people have gone, oh, I like her. Well, that's what I hope. I like her. I'd like to talk to her a little bit about how she can support our business than just doing like I don't know, like a slide where you're just clicking and you just do presentations. People get lost in that. They want to listen to you to talk very
yeah.
openly. So I think over time I've got better. And now I always then go, any speaking slots I will do all day long because I've got into a rhythm now. Don't get me wrong, nerves still do hit. And at the beginning, as soon as I get past that, I would say the first 90 seconds, I'm off. I'm in. I'm done. I'm in the zone. I'm interacting. I'm walking around.
Yeah.
Got my Britney microphone. I'm good. I'm having a lovely time. And I always find coming off that stage, I get that buzz of like, I do know my shit. I do know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think you thrive on talking about your journey and your product and your business and your team and what we're solving. I love that.
Yeah.
But I do still go, "Ooh, I'm not quite sure I should be doing this."
Yeah.
Why did you ask me?
Why did you ask me? I've not done that much public speaking. I've done one talk on a stage and it was in November. And I wish I had a Britney mic because all I could think about for the first start of it was I could see the microphone shaking. And I have watched the video back. I can't even see it on the video that it was shaking. So I wish I hadn't overthought it too much. Nobody else could see that it was shaking. But I ended up holding the microphone with two hands because I thought that would steady it. And now when I watch the video back, I'm like, I know why I'm doing that. And it's a bit strange. And I wish I was able to be more, more
Yeah.
limber with that. So obviously the first 90 seconds are really important for you. You probably, I'm assuming, practice those over and over so that you're really in the swing. Do you then let your talks flow after that? Or are you prepping full pure script?
It depends. So when I was at Shop Talk, it's a script. It's a 4 slide presentation. It's a very, very small window.
Yeah.
It is a presentation, but it's a presentation, but I'm also freestyling it. I'm not scripted on. I just look at the deck and talk about that description and then talk about it freestyle. When I did a conference in LA, the previous month, it was completely freestyle. There was no debt. It was about entering into the Middle East, customer experience into the Middle East, technology, logistics, what you need to have a successful launch into the GCC region. And because I know the region so incredibly well now, we're spending so much time into it. To me, it's just so fun. So I always start with, this is the region, this is the population. Then this is where customers are shopping. This is this and that. And then maybe like one slide around some statistics.
Yeah.
But I tend to like pick the statistics and then add a little piece on here, add a little piece on there. And before you know it, your 7 minutes, your 10 minutes, your 20 minutes are up. You can see the little timer at the bottom of the stage kind of counting down. But there's also been times when I've done speeches and I've had time back. I've done my talk. If I just continue to talk, I'm now just talking.
Yeah.
Because if I've got the message across and it's clear and there's some people nodding and in the auditorium or they're writing things down, I'm not going to just go, right, what do I do now for another 4 minutes? Oh, I'll just talk about it again. Because then people are like, just ramble on for 20 minutes. I don't really understand it.
Yeah. That last 4 minutes will diminish, everything else that you've said earlier on.
You've got to be really careful. And I've never had a coach. I've never had a speaking coach. And maybe, maybe it's something I should look at as well. Because I think it's always good to keep making sure you're good at public speaking, but not something that's high on my agenda.
Yeah. 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 No, thank you. That's actually so interesting. Next time I'm going to maybe try and be less scripted. Whenever I've done anything, even when I'm prepping for the podcast, I'm an over preparer. I always have been, to be honest with you. However, what I was hearing from, you've got pointers and prompts and you're kind of telling your own story within those pointers and prompts. Sometimes the worst situations when you're doing public speaking are the ones where you've gone wrong. No one else knows. You mentioned that earlier. No one knows your script. No one else knows you've gone wrong, but you've gone wrong. And then that can throw you off completely. Whereas the more fluid you can keep it, you haven't technically gone wrong. You've just decided to say something else about that point, and then you can move on from there. So,
This doesn't work. But then it's all trial and error. It really is. So I just don't do cue cards. I write down some things like bullet points and I just go over them like a good hour before the show or the conference, just going over. But then as soon as I get on that stage, I'm like, people are interested in the person.
Yeah.
And if you're animated and you're walking around the stage and you're engaging and you're funny and you got a personality, let's call it. You're not going to do a stand-up comedian, but you've got something about people will listen. If you're going up there to go, this is how we do it. Click, next slide.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm boring. This is not what I want to do.
No. And in a busy day, that becomes a great opportunity for them to get on their phones and update their messages.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say to, we'll have potentially a lot of young women listening to this who've never done any public speaking. What would you say to someone who's thinking about trying to get themselves out there and do some public speaking?
Just start. If you're going to public speak about a product, an industry, a sector that you know well, then all you can do is just start by doing a small segment first, maybe a small room of 20, 30 people, and then build on that and then just chuck yourself into that. But as I say, nobody knows the market, the sector, the product better than you, whether you're in MarTech, FinTech, PropTech, retail tech. You're in your space because you're good at what you do. Whether you're in a junior position or a C-suite position, You're in that role because you're good at something within that business or several things. And if someone gives you the opportunity to say, do you want to come and talk about fintech at HSBC Bank, at your fintech startup? We know you are a, let's say not a junior, but a mid-level. You've only been in the company 6 months, but you've been at these businesses prior to that. I'd be like, 1,000,000%. I think businesses should let talent go out there and do public speak, because I think it builds their credibility in the industry.
Yeah.
I think it builds their confidence. And I think, why not? Like, in the nicest possible way, I don't want to be doing all the public speaking forever. I want my team to get on stage and talk about product or
Mm.
this or that, and refer back to, my CEO was here last year, she talked about this. We're here this year to talk about this. I want people to be on the stage, not just about me,
Yeah.
because I don't think it needs to be. It needs to be about what you're really passionate about, whatever level you're at in the business. Just go for it,
Yeah.
personally.
I think that will also provide some more specific topics around certain areas of your business that you might be looking at from a more holistic, perspective than your person who's more focused with product or the operations or how to onboard your customers. So those types of things are really relevant areas that people want to learn about, and from the person who's really day to day doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I just think give everyone a chance. And if they don't want to do it, that's okay. But some people then will thrive, and they will remember that opportunity that you did give them.
Yes, absolutely. And I think when you first do a bit of public speaking, you know how it makes you feel. The
Yes.
buzz I got from that talk, and then I've been on a few webinars since then and been to some not on a stage situation, but more virtual, and then launched a podcast. But really, it was just like, oh, I actually like this. I'm happy to talk and share
Yeah.
other people's stories and my
Yeah.
story, and it gives me energy and makes me feel positive.
Being uncomfortable can bring out things you don't realize that you can actually do.
Yes.
And I've clearly known that within the last 4 years of doing Primis. Like, I've been so uncomfortable in majority of my time, because I'm like, how do I do this? I don't know. Figure it out. How do I fundraise? I don't know. Figure it out. You don't need to be super qualified and have everything in your favor. Just get out there and take a risk and just jump in. And you will fail 100%. I've failed several times over the last few years doing this and made major mistakes and done things that I shouldn't have done. But they're all learnings.
Yeah.
And you go, well, I'm not going to do that again because that was not a good idea. This was great. I'm going to do that. So you've just got to jump into it and hope for the best.
That's such good advice. Speaking of advice, we always ask the same ending question on the podcast. We're ultimately here to, amplify the voices of females in technology. And so I'd love to ask people what the best piece of advice they have received from a leader in tech.
If you're truly passionate and you've got a vision and an idea or something you really want to bring to life, and you are strong and resilient, just roll up your sleeves and just do it. Do not give a shit about what anyone thinks about you, because in life, people are going to like you or not like you. And that's just life. And I had to learn to live with that as well. I know there's people out there who are probably watching me and probably going, how has she managed to do that? Like, she's only meant to be doing that. She's only a saleswoman. But I don't give two shits.
Mm.
Because to me, it's like, I am determined to make a success and leave something behind, whatever that will be and whatever the story will be. So I think for anyone starting the career or halfway through, or maybe working for someone and wants to go off and do something by themselves, if you don't try it, you'll never know. And the only thing is, if you fail, it's not a failure, it's a learning. It's okay, that path wasn't meant for me right now. Maybe I need to take a different path. So for me, is just jump in, feet, head, body first in the deep end, and you will figure it out. But surround yourself with good people as well along the process, for sure.
Yeah.
Keep that circle small, but surround yourself with very good people to help you along that journey.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on, for sharing those insights. I think we've covered some important areas hopefully given our listeners an insight into what fundraising looks like and how to consider public speaking and some of those really great tips that you've given so that everyone can go in with confidence. Throw yourself in. I love that as the overarching theme of today. Just do it. Just go for it.
Just do it. What's the worst thing that could happen? Probably not a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Elaine.
You're welcome.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Leaders in Tech. Your support means the world to us, and we're incredibly grateful for the opportunity to share these empowering stories with you. If you're listening on a podcast platform and you believe in our mission to amplify the voices of women in tech, please take a moment to leave us a rating. It really helps us grow and reach more listeners. And don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with others. Anyone watching on YouTube, engagement makes a big difference, so please subscribe to our channels and give this episode a like and share. If you resonated with any of the topics today or have some similar experiences, then we want to hear from you in the comments section. Let's keep the conversation going. Your contribution is not just a favour, it's a powerful step towards change. Remember, every story shared and every voice heard can ignite a spark in someone's career. So, if you know an amazing woman with a story that needs to be heard, please nominate them. Thanks again for listening and for being part of this journey.